got out of the hospital there and died a couple hours later in a town about an hour and a half east of Seattle. And the individuals arrested for providing him drugs was a girl that was immediately in the social circle of the victims of this Idaho quadruple homicide. So again, it seems to be that this there is a much larger drug culture amongst the quote unquote secret societies of these fraternities and sororities there. And and you make a good point about the national chapters and some of the protocols I find interesting here is within how these organizations operate is these national chapters tell the local chapters of universities how to operate in the event of an issue or emergency. For example, if there was somebody who got a overdose or alcohol poisoning on at one of the sorority or fraternity houses, they're supposed to call the national chapter first, not any police or parents, and then the national chapter handles it, and they probably handle it through these attorneys that used to be part of these organizations. As you pointed out, Ed, there's a lot of that activity that goes on. So, it's, to a certain degree, the 8-hour gap in time could be somewhat attributed to that policy, although this home was not on campus, and it was not an actual sorority house. It was just a home, that was populated by sorority girls. So, and then one fraternity guy that is over visiting his girlfriend. So, there's definitely a blanket of secrecy already dealing with these organizations. They have policies like this to add more ambiguity to what happened in the immediate aftermath. However, I think the 8-hour timeline is of not calling 911 in a home where 4 people were brutally murdered in allegedly a silent fashion, because again, no one heard anything apparently. But I think that is one of the biggest gaping holes in this entire investigation, and one police have simply ignored and not really cared to dive further into, it seems.
Now the Koberger defense, he has a public defender.
Correct. He has two public defenders. Yep.
Okay. And how did he make a living before this?
It seems that he was basically a professional student, but he did have some security guard jobs, I believe, at the local school district back in where he's from in Pennsylvania. I believe his mother was a teacher in that district, and he was at one point in time employed as a security guard there. But in large part, it looks like he's been a professional college student for the last 5 or 6 years for the most part.
Okay, and the mother was employed at the college. What about his father?
I mean, his parents seem to be of upper middle class. I don't recall his father's exact profession, but I did look at some of the family's activities, and they on their to me they seem like a normal folk. Not a family of serial killers or anything. As often as getting reported that Brian Koberger is some serial killer monster, but. My point on that topic is, why don't we start with the Idaho case? Did he do that one? And if he didn't, then we can probably drop all the rest. Then
what are the allegations? I've never heard any allegations of serial killing. What would be the other occasions?
Oh, I mean, the interwebs. The folks of the interwebs come up with all sorts of ideas, don't they, Ed? I mean, one of it, I believe, is how it goes. Some of those theories. One of his professors that he had at grad school in criminal justice out at DeSales University in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
She apparently wrote a book on the BTK killer, I believe.
Okay.
And it's obviously the folks of the interwebs claim that that Koberger's like Ted Bundy, and he intentionally sought out a professor who wrote a book on the BTK killer. And again, I just think a lot of this stuff is just kind of ridiculous at times. And I try to look at what law enforcement is even to do to incriminate Koberger in this case, in the Idaho case. And again, they've not done a great job, and I think they're well aware of it.
Real quick, who was the professor who wrote that book on BTK?
Oh, that's a great question.
Have you ever seen those pictures in the BTK case?
No, it's a strange case. Most of my knowledge comes from Dave McGowan's book,
right. Program to Kill.
Thank you, Ed.
But the thing is,
I was drawing a blank.
Yeah, I got an autographed copy.
Nice.
What do you call it? Because what was that guy's name in BTK? Real quick, remember?
Dennis Rader.
Right. He has pictures of himself, Polaroids of himself tied up. He has pictures of himself buried up to his neck. How did he? And they're saying he took the pictures himself. Very, very strange case here at BTK. I wonder who the professor was, because I interviewed a bunch of people on that. Some people try and explain it away. And there's definitely other murders he was involved in. He's gotten away. We only got about 2 minutes left. Mr. J.J. Vance, you can find him at OperationGCD.com. And the podcast is called Operation GCD. You can find him on Twitter at OperationGCD. What do you want to leave us with?
Oh, well, Ed, I appreciate the time. Thanks for the invite. I think I can leave you with, even suspect Koberger's got rights, and it seems like if law enforcement authorities in Idaho and Washington have a case against the man, they need to quit stealing stuff. They need to quit denying the man discovery, and if he's legitimately the perpetrator of these crimes, then they've done a good job. If not, they need to go back out and provide justice for these victims.
Hey, what do we know about the prosecutor down there? Do they have a history of being difficult with and overly aggressive with sharing discovery and stuff like that?
It doesn't seem to be, but they do have a history of some other strange murders and even murders of children of the law enforcement departments there that have never been solved. So, there's an odd culture there in that town, and I think it has a deep historical roots. And I'm kind of going to be covering some of that in a future podcast on the topic, some of the occult history of that town. Murders
of children of law enforcement.
Correct.
Okay, and you believe there's an occult connection to that?
Well, I think just generally speaking, the town was founded by occultists, some folks with an astrotheological philosophy.
Who?
They named themselves the Pleiades Club.
Okay. And what about, real quick?
That's who started the university as well. They were the spouses of the founder and other faculty.
Oh, really? Very interesting. That's very interesting.
Yeah, there was a New Thought cult that operated there as their headquarters too. That seemed to have some strange power, political power, social power, called the Psychiana cult.
Any indications of any of the people in the home or Koberger himself being a police informant?
I've often asked that, and there's not any clear indications, but there's certainly when you're dealing with this much drug activity, those police informants do seem to go hand in hand.
Yeah. And cover up. J.J. Vance, OperationGCD.com. You can find him on Twitter at OperationGCD. How often do you put out content for your podcast?
I do it at least every 2 weeks, but I generally aim for more like every week. But yeah, I'd love to, any folks want to come over and listen or interact with me. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and like I said, producing content at least every couple of weeks there on Operation GCD.
But not on a regular schedule. It doesn't come out on a specific day or time.
I aim for every Friday, but yeah, it's at least every other Friday at the worst.
So follow him on Twitter, Operation GCD, and check his aim for when the shows will come out. Hey, J.J. Vance, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.
Good night.